Hey, Nicholas with some more adventures in locksmithing, continuing the series of Locksmiths React to Hollywood. This time we're going to be going to Burn Notice. Me and my wife have been watching through Burn Notice, and let me just say, at releasing one of these videos is on average about one a week. Burn Notice alone could probably keep me busy for an entire year. There is just so many times they comment on locksmithing, security in general, and so many times they get it so wrong. It's just, but there's also things that they get right. So we're going to look at a situation here. They've got to be able to pull off a job. They've got to steal, a garbage truck because they need a big armored truck to ram into kind of an armored SUV to get it to pull over. And so here they are. They're going to break in and they're going to be talking about it. And it's actually one of Michael's old friends. Won't spoil the episode, but there is something to that. He's actually doing the Michael Weston, describing what they're doing on this one. But let's go and get this started.
Security levels vary widely for different kinds of vehicles.
Oh, he is very right here. Security on vehicles is very different on different vehicles, and there's a lot of different varieties. When it comes to like opening a vehicle, until recently, Fords were a joke. Fords were a complete and total joke. Chevys kind of too, similar with Dodge. Like some of these vehicles were easy. It used to be that it was, Honda, Toyota were the super easy ones. Then they got stolen a lot. They fixed it up. But for a long time, Ford was still susceptible to the Slim Jim after everybody else went to like the bicycle cables to prevent that, or they shielded it like Chevy did. Ford kept the rods exposed. You could still do it. Now, I had a recent one where I did one of these. It was a 2022, I think it was, and it had a relocker, and it was one of those push to start ones, and you could not get to any things. It was quite a bit of a challenge there. So they have stepped that up. But when it comes to big vehicles and work vehicles that are kind of unruly, like nobody's, as he said, nobody's going around and stealing a dump truck. A lot of times the technology on this is basically an AMC ignition, an old AMC pickup ignition, which is the same kind of ignition that a lot of times is on quads. A lot of times it's on tractors. Just about anything, a piece of equipment that just needs to turn on, like a wood chipper or something like that. A lot of these use this exact same ignition, and you'll see it. It has on one end, it's just a little thing, and in fact, let's put a picture of it up right there. Okay, now so you're seeing that. So what you'll see is like on the one you have the key and then the switch, and then on the other side it's just prongs, and based on what your vehicle has, you put into the different prongs the different wires you need. Usually it's like two reds and a black ground, but so it's as simple as basically pulling those wires out and putting them together. Now, what prevents hot wiring on cars? First thing, they introduced the wheel lock. So that's designed, it works with the shift interlock and stuff like that, but that's designed so that when the key is not turned, even if you hotwire and start it, when you make a wide turn, the wheel will lock and you will only be able to go in a big circle. That technology came out towards mid late 70s, early 80s, around there. It started phasing in to basically prevent what you see in all the movies of cars getting hijacked and stuff, and they just they do that. Well, that was such a common practice, they had to create a mechanical way to stop that. Now, that led to what was called breakout kits. Those breakout kits, you put them in the ignition, and it brake turns them. On American cars. On Asian cars, there was a flaw in the ignition design, and this is Honda, Toyota, Nissan. They all had this flaw where you could use jiggle keys, and boom, you were gone in a matter of seconds. Now, Toyota and Nissan, they were quick to respond. Honda took the longest, which is why Honda now has some of the most insane security, because they became the #1 stolen car. Not necessarily as belief is that they were just such amazing cars, which they are great cars, but it was because of how ridiculously easy they were to steal. So security is not all the same. And now Honda, as far as like picking or anything like that, forget about it. This is not how you're going to get into a Honda. Because they've kind of gone the other direction to try to get rid of that reputation of being easy to steal. From that Ford, I said that might be Ford responding to that, because their pickups were some of the most ludicrously easy vehicles to steal. But then you have like these big, massive big rigs with gigantic stuff in the back, and not only do they have that simple ignition, but a lot of times they're a GM gas cap from like the 60s key. I'm talking Kenworth, Freightliner, Peterbilt, like these things, Mack, that, and only recently did they go to a newer, more Chrysler design. But even still, when they're the new Chrysler design, they're still this same in the dash, no wheel lock, and really all you have to do is pull the wires out the back and tie them together. The only thing that really improved is that now you have a more secure key, harder to pick on the outside of the vehicle. But it's that. What's interesting is that locks to the trailer, locks to the gas tanks, those locks are usually superior in security than the actual lock to the driver's door and the ignition. Those are like an afterthought. They keep honest people out, but they are not security. They are so well beyond, and it's amazing, these expensive pieces of equipment. But as he explained, like, if you stole a big rig, it's not going to take much of a high-speed chase. You're not going to lose the copter cam in a big rig. It's just not happening. Those vehicles cannot make a getaway real fast. They cannot get out of sight and hide. It's much harder. So the security is just in the undesirability. It's the same thing with like certain safes. You know, sometimes just something, a vault door. Like a vault door, it's that you have to be visible and break in. Sometimes it's just a matter of how massive a thing is that it makes it undesirable to try to steal versus the portable safe. But so in here, let's get to see as they go through this break-in attempt, though, and see the obstacles they had and how they handle the theft of this garbage truck. Their first obstacle is the padlock on the gate. It's easy enough just to cut. Okay, so you saw she just cut it. Now, what I find funny is that she actually cut the padlock. She should have just cut the chain. The chain was skinnier than the padlock. So it was a big, impressive padlock, and at the end of the day, a padlock is only as strong as the chain or the fence you put on it. I have seen people buy ridiculous, gigantic padlocks, put it on a standard size like chain like we saw there, which is big, it's bulky, but it's not amazing, and then put it on a chain link fence. When you could just use those snips to snip the chain link fence. But, you know, they make, in the show, they make kind of make, oh, what's this bad boy? And he's, you know, this is going to be a problem. And she snips it and she's like, not that bad, you know, kind of attitude. And that's because this padlock is, you know, yes, Fiona has been shown she has a skill. She could have picked that lock. There are whole YouTube channels based around how easy it is to pick a master lock. But at the end of the day, why would a locksmith even bother getting the picks out when it's a snip? And that's at the end. And what's interesting is, like, she used that, which was the more quieter solution. But if you were to come up across a lock that was one that had shackle guards, something to prevent bolt cutting, one, she could have cut the chain, but two, a battery operated grinder, it's off. All padlocks, you could have the best master Abus disc padlock, real nice hunking thing, and a grinder is going to slice right through it. So at the end of the day, the security on that, like, it's not even a point. They just go right through this gate. Okay, let's go on, see what they do next.
Garbage trucks, for example, are expensive, but the fact that they're hard to hide and harder to sell means that you don't find a lot of garbage truck alarm systems.
Okay, so as we said, we mentioned different levels of security. This is telling you exactly why. It's because this is a garbage truck. Who's going to steal a garbage truck? How could you get away in a high speed of a garbage truck? That's why there's such a low level of security. Likewise, the padlock. Like, what's preventing people from getting in here? It's just a padlock and chain. There's no motion detectors. There's no alarm system. Who's going to steal from some county garbage truck yard? It just, who would want that? Who would want a garbage truck? So it's just interesting, the lack of security here on that. It's just kind of an assumption that nobody would want to steal it, and in some ways, because of it's what makes it in the show easy for them to steal. They got in the gate. There's no alarm on the gate. They steal the thing out of the yard, and nobody will notice till morning. Because why would the city post a security guard or anything like that to guard garbage trucks? Because who's going to steal a garbage truck? What are you going to do with a garbage truck? Interesting little take here. Let's continue on.
So how long did you and Michael work together?
About a year. Yeah, he's a pretty damn good guy to have around when things get rough.
Yeah, he has his moments.
I found this hilarious. I just found it hilarious. She's sitting there with her picks and she's just going, okay, it's open. She didn't actually turn the lock, and she didn't the turning tool should be, in a constant turn. Like, it shouldn't move, and the other one moves up and down. You don't move both. It's because she's not actually putting any turning pressure. She has what could be a turning tool. It's hard to tell in this, but she doesn't actually move anything, which tells me the door was already unlocked, and she just sat there, did the scene, and did that. So this is a fail, Hollywood. You couldn't show it. Now, how would I make it so that an actor who didn't know how to pick a lock could do this? It's easy. You take all the wafers out of the lock, put it on there, and they pretend like they're putting pressure. They're doing it, and then that little bit makes the scene pass my spec. And I've seen shows do it. So it's not that it's impossible. But here, in a lot of shows, we'll cut away. They will show the picking, and then they will pan out to see somebody's expression, or whoever they're with make a comment like, will you hurry up, we're going to get caught. And they turn around and it's already turned, and they say, got it. Well, that's because they didn't actually do it. They cut the camera off of it to hide the fact that they didn't actually pick the lock. That's clever. That's a cheaper way to do it. Of course, the way I said makes it very authentic if you're going for a show for real realism. But this is a weekly show. We cannot be too hard. This is, 20-something episodes a year. They're just banging these episodes out. But I just find it funny that, and she goes to pick the lock. She doesn't use any kind of tool. She's picking this lock, which is interesting because with the padlock, like I said, she snipped it because that's the cheaper solution. A lot of times with one of these car doors, the cheaper, quicker solution is to use a tool in the door to get it open rather than sit there and try to pick a lock. Also, on this one, this looked more like a newer lock. It didn't look like the old GM gas single-sided key. This looked like a double-sided lock, which does make it a little more difficult to pick. Not impossible. No, by no means impossible, but it would make it a little more different. She should have had a pick that had two prongs, and then you go in the middle and you work it both ways. That would have been the appropriate type of pick turning tool to have. And just like I said, it wouldn't have been the easiest way to do it. And in fact, I might have just used a key pick if I was going to try to pick it. But of course, that technique, it would have had to been explained. This is kind of nope. Everybody understands lock picks open locks, so let's wiggle some lock picks in there. But I found that funny. So let's go on and see how she starts this vehicle. As we see, this one is true. You just have to pull the ignition wires out from the dash, wire them together, and you're able to get it to start. Okay, now you see, She reached up under the dash, she just pulled the wires out of the back of that ignition, and now she is able to take the little caps off that are what are the connector caps, and just wire those two, and she's got the vehicle started. It's that easy, that simple. And it's just one of those things that it is amazing to me how low the security is on these vehicles. And if which, you know, most of the time there's a level of security, they will get noticed that they're stolen, but I often wonder, like, you know, there's got to be areas where stuff like this is just left unwatched, and stuff can get stolen. And this is everything from sometimes fire trucks, you know, this was a garbage truck, dump trucks, you know, construction vehicles, road work vehicles. You see it a lot with big rigs, you know, ice trucks. All this kind of stuff usually has old, outdated technology. They use what's tried and true Ford and Chevy and Dodge stuff from the 90s is currently now what's in a lot of these vehicles. Now they're starting to get a little more tech. I've actually done a big rig that had a chipped key. I've done a big rig that had a Sidewinder key. And these are usually very luxury versions of these cars. But here's the other thing with these equipments. While that stuff does exist, most people are not driving a new truck off the lot. Most of this equipment is designed to last a long time. If you get anything that's a 450, 550, 650 Ford chassis, like, that is designed to go for decades. And we still, like, I still get Mack trucks and stuff where people come in as the old GMC Kenworth and stuff like that. I still get that sometimes. And it's starting to phase out, and I'm just now getting to the ones that are more the ones that use the Chrysler key, which, so that tells you something. The other one was like the ones from the 60s, so like about 5-10 years ago, that was all I was getting almost. And we started getting the ones that had the Chrysler style key in it. And now that has become most popular, but every now and then somebody comes in with these newer, more advanced ones. So those are out there, but the market is so saturated with that, and they get these big rigs and stuff, they get replaced at a much slower rate than regular cars. And so it's amazing that, like, even when something is new, it's usually 10 years or more behind in technology on these things. But you know what's not behind the thing? Like, some of these vehicles, they'll have the cheapest key, the cheapest ignition, all that kind of stuff, and they'll have like the most advanced, like, air shock ride seat that like delivers a perfect ride, you know, the best sound system, all this other stuff will be top notch in these things to make it a comfortable ride for these drivers. But the security is like non-existent. And even in the new ones that are adding a lot of this, it's still the in the dash thing is still very common with that, because they're not worried about them getting stolen. So in that way, this got it right. Now, there were some things that got wrong. The way she opened that, but like the way she got through that padlock, definitely how it happens. All these things, you know, Master Lock's very proud about the fact that, you know, you can't shoot it off with a gun because it's gun protected. And you have all of these YouTubers that are very proud that they can pick it. Neither of those are ways that people get into padlocks. They snip them. Show got it right there. Did not have her stop and pick open a padlock, because that would have been ridiculous. They did, however, when it came to the door, that wasn't. So this one was mostly true. So with the knowledge we have here, I hope everybody has a good day. And I need to go get myself a new dump truck. Hope everybody has a good day, and I'll catch you in the next video.